let's get started. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I forced myself to make one vlogging video so that I could pat myself on the back and move on past my writer's block to all the other stuff that I need to get done. So, if you don't know me, which you shouldn't because I don't have any videos left, but if you know, maybe you know me from life, I'm Wicks. I have to admit now that I do way too many things at once. I'm kind of trying to be everywhere. I'm a lifelong learner, and I really love getting involved in new projects and seeing what I can learn, seeing what sort of overlaps between the knowledge domains I can find. Lately, it's been a little crazy, and I'm going to tell you a little more about that. You might know my videography company, Devoid of Context Entertainment. We've done music videos or performance videos, everything for mostly the heavy metal and hip hop, mostly out of New York and North Carolina. And we've had a really big year. This has actually been our biggest year yet. We've worked with more music festivals than we've ever worked with. I've got dozens of hours of, by the way, this is an interesting time because the door's open and there's a jackhammer going off. I'm gonna try to fix it in post. Hopefully you don't even know about the jackhammer going off right now, but I do wanna let you know there's a jackhammer going off and my lav mic is picking it right up. Anyway, I've got lots and lots of footage to go through. I went through dozens of hours of music festivals. I've got dozens of bands, really talented bands, really talented music artists, and we're at a really exciting time now, everybody. This year, we were kind of half in the Blackmagic camera category, half in the Canon camera category, but I started to look at the camera lenses. I knew that Canon had come out with their new line. I just felt like time was no longer on my side. We pulled some really risky moves and made the full switch to go from Canon cameras, basically to upgrade to Canon's R3. Top of the line Canon camera. I wouldn't turn back. I'm really glad we did it. The other major thing is that in 2024, we're going to be really pushing forward on the post-production. I want to become a stronger editor. I want to become a trusted name in editing, color grading, and all these cool things. And so we'll see what happens, but right now we're excited to be where we are. Get that puppy Cerberus up on the screen, maybe over there. I don't know where it's going to be. I'm very proud of what happened for that brand this year. That project is doing fantastic. I see that I want to touch base with all of the bands and the brands that I have worked with. We're at a point now where I don't have to just do dry, neutral coverage of the event. We have come a long way. If you look at the videos we were putting out at the beginning of the year versus the videos that we're putting out now, the difference is huge. And it's only going to become more pronounced in time. I do need water. I do. Thanks for hanging with me. It's only going to get better, and so now I want to start having those one-to-ones with the bands and with the artists so that we can really figure out how they want their video to be expressed. Yes, I can keep it to be high-quality live performance video, or we could dive a little deeper on some creative looks and start to play around that way. And so I'm really excited about that. And so for Devoid of Context Entertainment, I would like to see getting through this project, getting a lot of these bands to get shipped out what they need. Today is the first day of my break from school. What you might know, we're going to talk about it a little bit later. This is actually my first year as a teacher. That's been exciting. I feel like we'll just keep on moving. Devoid of Context Entertainment, we've made it to a really major milestone in the journey. I want to have closer relationship with my clients to figure out what it is that they want out of the final deliverable, because we became a lot more powerful this year in being able to actually process this footage, get really high quality images, and it's kind of overwhelming for me actually, because there's so many different things that you could do, so many different directions that each project can move in. And so the ultimate decision maker is the bands themselves. And I'm excited about that because 2 years ago, I couldn't have dreamed of talking like that, but I do realize that that's how we level up next. So that's it for that project. That's the Red project. Let's move on. How about Werewolf? No, not yet. Don't get excited. How about Western Governors University? I do have an outline. You could probably see me checking the outline. Western Governors University is my favorite college, I would have to say. It's usually because it's self-paced. So if you're a hardcore workaholic like myself, you don't have to worry about commuting into a campus. If you're self-motivated, you got that intrinsic motivation, you really can see it through and you can develop your own internal kind of discipline structure. WGU will give you an entrance ramp onto the highway. You can get started, and I love that about it. So the hard part though has been that WGU, I haven't been able to focus on that much. That's the number one undernourished project has been WGU. So I'm back in school to get my information technology bachelor's degree. Why would you do that? Well, see, for a year there, I was working in video games, and I really enjoyed working in video games, but I'll never forget some of the communication difficulties that I had, mostly with one person, because this one person had this belief system that he was technical and other people weren't technical, so he must always be right and other people must always be wrong. And it was really heartbreaking because we started to notice that this one individual was actually kind of illiterate with a lot of life skills and business skills, or even just like more common logical concepts came very difficult to this person. And ultimately they probably cost that company. That company might not ever exist in the way that they would have existed if certain key decisions made by that one individual didn't go down that way. And so that was a pretty heartbreaking experience for me, because I invested a lot to get new skills to be good enough at that period of time. And yet this, the fact that I wasn't very technical seems to be this attack tactic that this individual would use to like discredit me behind my back, but never to my face, because the person couldn't really articulate their own, a lot of the things they were saying about me behind my back, they would have been refuted immediately by any adult in the room, but it didn't go down that way. And so my point is, now that hindsight's 2020, I just realized that if I was more technical at the time, it probably would have given me the extra jargon that I needed in order to make certain points even more crystal clear, so that they wouldn't have needed to learn the hard way. And so I won't say that I feel guilt on that, because you can't expect yourself to be perfect. And really, I was already putting in way more effort than that opportunity probably deserved or appreciated. But my point is, I feel that I'm right next to the East Coast Silicon Valley over here in Raleigh. I'm from New York. There's plenty of amazing opportunities back home. And me becoming technical is not a bad thing. Me becoming more technical is a good thing. And so I looked at this opportunity as an opportunity to get some new certifications. You know, I'm addicted to that. And to go ahead and learn some new things that will help me take a lot of my conceptual skills and to bring them closer to the nuts and bolts. And so on paper, I should be going through the entire Western Governors University program in 6 months. But the problem is I have already lost 6 weeks, and that's incredibly difficult to catch up now. And so I do have my week off from school, but really this is probably, I think I probably have to accept defeat on that project unless some miracle happens. So right now we're up to ITIL and the CompTIA Plus. CompTIA Plus features 2 different exams, not 1. And it's not the entire program, by the way. I have transfer credits in, but it's 18 courses in total, so it's not easy. So that's a project that's difficult to think about. You could throw an owl up on screen, an owl that's like not looking like its survivability is too strong right now. You could say that's where I am. What's my reasonable expectation? I think that by the end of my winter break, I will either know, I just want to know more about what it's going to take in order to get through these first 3 certifications. Or three courses, because let me be straightforward about this. If I cannot get through these 3 courses by the end of this winter break, I just think it's reasonable to expect that WGU is going to be a fail. If I don't get some quick wins and start to develop some momentum, I'm going to get too overwhelmed by all the other projects that we haven't even talked about yet. And so WGU is in a really dangerous position, and I don't want to have wasted my money. I really want to have invested in myself and to have bet on the right guy. So please pray for that project, because that project is in the worst shape, and you could tell a lot by my victory chances on that project by how far I get in the next few months. By February 1st, you'll know about that. You'll know all about that. I didn't get through 6 courses, then I'm probably dead in the water on that project. So there you go, no stress. How about next? Next up, you've got Werewolf University and Wake County pushed together. Wake County, I've been teaching middle schoolers between 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And we've been exploring a lot of cool core concepts that actually have a lot in common with what I've taught in the past in my Werewolf University curriculums, particularly systems thinking, design thinking, strategic thinking, emotionally connecting with others, recognizing the sort of complexity of human potential. I have to bake it into an all-new language for middle schoolers, and I have to emphasize things differently, like strong visuals from movies and interactive projects, and you need to really be able to tie everything together in a way that allows the learning to be seamless. Excuse me, couldn't help it. But yeah, that's been a blast. I think it's actually benefited Werewolf University a lot. And the key here too, I would tell you that I cannot be not authentic, and yet I don't have the energy to do anything aside from just talking about the way that my life is built, because this is keeping it real. Might be boring, because I don't know how many people live this way with their goals and whatnot. But you know, I'm just going to keep it as authentic as I can. get more confident in front of a camera, get more confident articulating super complex and super wild stuff. By the way, this is why I've ghosted these last few years. If any of this has been overwhelming to consume, it's also overwhelming for me to think about communicating it. And so talking about these complex projects, you're talking about clusters and clusters and clusters of tasks that I expect myself to complete even if I don't know how to complete them on any given week. And so now here we are, and we're talking about like macro phases of expectations of myself, and it can get very fancy to talk about how to hold so many psychological abstracts in our mind at one time is very difficult for the communicator and for the receiver. And so this is I can't manage anything more than this. So that's what I expect of myself for myself as an educator. I'd like to do that. For myself as an educator, that's what that project really is. I'd like to become better at speaking in these ways. I'd like to become a more clear communicator, even with complex stuff like what we're talking about right now. And I'd like to become more confident even in sterile environments such as this, where I am alone and I don't have students here to ask me questions and to move the dialogue along. This is something I don't want to be thrown off in this setting. I want to be able to move on and to keep making moves. What else we got? And so that's it for that project. I'd like to say, so it's not it for that project. What's your actionable summary? My actionable summary is, by the end of winter break, I simply want to have done one of these videos, let's say once per day. And I would just like to be happy and content with that, maybe doing a little bit of post-production processing just to feel that I've worked with my own brand rather than just obsessing over other clients. I do love my other clients and I love video editing, but I'm a person too, come on now. And so that's what I'd like to do by the end of winter break. And then I would really like to approach my next sprint with an attitude of pushing that up as being a big challenge. Because if I can create a digital library of resources that allow for my students to hear advanced explanations of the key concepts I expect them to understand in class, there's no teacher who does that. For me to do that and to go above and beyond and to create that level of texture where a student could be completely at home and want to go and dive a little deeper into the subject matter, even if that only affects one student, that's a luxury that I would like to provide. So there you go. I'm walking you there. I'd like you to walk yourself there. And by January 23rd, that's the end of the quarter. So for me to get through this in winter break, or to at least to have gotten my mind ready for this by the end of winter break, this actually means that in quarter 3 and quarter 4, all of those students get to be the direct beneficiaries of the work that I complete today. And by the end of the school year, everybody's better off. And I literally can create rolling curricula which are digitally archived for the betterment of all of Wake County, and we could literally lead the country in doing this. And it's not like it's super brilliant of me. It's very obvious. The idea that we should have digital course resources so that we can lighten the load of what a teacher must complete in a day seems really intuitive and agile to me. And yet it doesn't appear to be a conversation that our schools are having. So I like to see that project push itself forward. That became a lot more profound than I expected it to be. I really just started off by going, hey, give yourself homework and get in there and do it for the kids. But I actually feel that lots of classes and schools and teachers would benefit strongly from this, even more for you teachers and students who are dealing with standardized test subjects. I'm talking about CTE to help you understand more about practical career skills, soft skills such as dealing with human beings, and things that deal with your entire life. In other words, you will use a math formula once or twice in a rare scenario unless you work in that field. You will deal with relationships, strategy, finances, CTE skills literally every single day of your life unless you live an impractical, isolated life that literally nobody lives. So, CTE is with you always, but that standardized test will butcher you if you are not really, really memorizing or really, really deep in your practice with really great memorization tools. And so my point is, you have to spend your whole life in the world of CTE curricula. You do not spend your whole life in the world of abstract calculus. So the idea that we could create digital assets that allow somebody at home to be able to have that. First of all, I understand Khan Academy already exists. All that stuff already exists. Sometimes you just want to have a face-to-face like this that says, hey kids, here is the Khan Academy, the resource over here, resource here, resource here. Tell them how to access it. Tell them how to make use of it. And that's the role of the teacher in these sorts of videos. And then you just make use out of what's already there. You want to know the number one line that I've heard from teachers in my first 6 months as a teacher? Don't reinvent the wheel. We've already got high quality digital resources. I'm just here to be your concierge, my student, to help you gain access to what's already out there, or if it doesn't exist in a strong enough capacity, I'll step on in, create it, and get my hands dirty. But the combination just means I am your online professor, and I'm going to make use of the entire world's intelligence and assets in order to help bring you to the highest standard. If you, for some reason, don't like anything that I've said, please speak to your guidance counselor and get removed from my class. I'm not here to push out. I'm not here to like rob you. For me to bring you into my class and to deliver you no value is to rob you and to rob the whole state. And so it makes total sense to me why I wouldn't want to do that. So I work best with people who are hungry, ambitious, and ready to get into it. I do like to have fun, and I do like to crack jokes, but I can't work with somebody who's sitting here bored all the time. I mean, the problems that you have as somebody who's sitting here bored in your own life all the time, I can't solve those problems. You need a completely different class. The people who will benefit the most from my class are the people who come in here hungry to consume the information that I'm here to give you. Otherwise, you're going to be sitting here grappling with yourself, playing internal chess about whether or not you should even pay attention or not. You know? And by the way, if you're putting your head down trying to sleep through class or something like that, you realize like I'm trying to move fast. I'm trying to move fast for the people who are hungry, who want to learn it. How can I move fast when you putting your head down for 2 minutes you could miss out on like 3 dense and necessary topics. So I don't want to butcher this point and go too long on it, but my point is do the best that you can, continue optimizing, continue doing all of your sort of Kaizen practices as an educator, but also consider how this digital archive can be role modeled and created. I have 4 courses that I teach, so for me to create digital resource archives for all 4 courses, is it a lot of work? Sure, it's a lot of work. But will East Garner Magnet Middle School benefit from it for the next 100 years? Yes. They got a building that they've had for 100 years. Why don't you give them a digital archive of resources that they could use for 100 years? Do you think the internet won't be here 100 years from now? I think it will. So I think it's time to invest in doing this the best way, the right way, and to create iterative cycles where only the highest quality content survives in your digital archive. In other words, the second you find a better way of explaining mathematics, literally delete the other video and come up with a new video that articulates your new superior tested method. So in other words, your digital archive is the surviving museum of the best way of explaining anything. The best way. Though you're not going to have a video online that has the worst way of explaining it. That makes no sense and can easily be improved. And so what I'm basically saying is, in a world where people randomly do things every single day that make absolutely no sense and feel unsupported by a larger administration that can pass the buck upward to infinity or can pass the buck downward to infinity, pretty much can, pretty much effectively, until there's no more relevant actors to push down to. And so blame is diffused, and so solution making is diffused. At best it's diffused. Probably nobody feels solution making makes any sense, because even if you found a solution, nobody care about you. And so I'd like to be the change I wish to see in the world, and I'd like to do the things that I just said, and I'd be very happy on that project to see that take place. My last project is basically the super push-in of this exact vlog that I'm kicking off, myself as a brand, that's right, Wade Wicks, oh what an influencer we got over here, and LYCAN-X, which is myself as a musical artist. Really, truly, I'd like to get into a metal band again because I love creating in that space, but we'll see what happens. I'm doing way too much right now as it is. And so, in this case, I would like to make time to prioritize getting in front of the camera and getting better this way. It literally makes no sense that I ghost for months of my life and go and put myself through so much without sharing what I'm going through and kind of, connecting with my own community. I'm lucky to know so many amazing people, and yet in these last few years, I have been dealing with, sort of depression and even like global pandemic type of feelings in a way that has pushed me into what feels like an unrelatable territory of human life. I've snapped a little bit, but I'm coming back to earth and I'm happy. We've got about 174 days left of this exact big program. I started this little vlogging thing when we had like 44 days left until January 23rd. So I don't know, but the answer now is probably like 32 days or something like that, 32 days left of my micro phase. So I guess that we can kick off that the way this works is that this is all inspired by the personal training concept of periodization. We break big goals into smaller little chunks, smaller little boxes, and that's your time. And you basically start to put a little bit of imagination on the text and texture on your project management calendar until you start to figure out what you're trying to achieve. So we break our big mission out down into smaller boxes, and we're basically counting that down. That'll kind of be the energy of the vlog, but there'll be more information about that in the next video. I just wanted to get this started, get a little bit of a feeling of confidence here, and I really welcome your questions. I'm happy to create emphasis videos on anything that stuck out to you, and we'll see where this goes. 2024 is already shaping up to be a really exciting year. Been a lot of grind these last few years, and I'm just excited to come back to earth and to reach out to people that I care about. Like I just didn't feel like I could stop and take a break these last few years, but that's not really a very healthy outlook. And so I'm hoping to evolve out of that. So if you check this out for the entire time, I just want to say a huge thank you to you. It's only going to get better in time, I hope. And so I'll catch you on the next video.